Update. Am I the a-hole for leaving my wife over a computer? Original post. I, 26 male, have been married to my wife Emma for 4 years. She was a social work major who I met in one of my gen ed classes. I explained to her I was a mechanical engineering major. She then asked if I could tutor her in math, and that's how we began dating. Afterwards, I decided to get my master's in Japanese to help me gain more career opportunities. My wife thought it was a silly idea and said she wouldn't be funding it, so then we decided to keep our finances separate. It wasn't a big deal since I was still working anyways. I just had less free time. So, she was making more than me during this time. It paid off, and I recently landed a high-paying job, and with that came more stress due to me having to travel to Japan often. I've really been wanting to get into gaming, so I invested in computer parts costing around $1,500. Once I took the parts out of the box, my wife noticed the receipt and asked how I could be irresponsible with my money. She assumed I still made the same amount, but when I told her that I make triple that amount now, she began giving me the silent treatment. During this time, I began to notice my things were going missing. I wanted to go fishing with some friends one time, and when I was looking for my rods, she must have noticed and said she had given them to her uncle. I told her not to take my stuff without asking, but didn't mind too much because they were old, so I just bought some more. Another time, I was about to go to the gym and I was looking for my pre-workout. I always keep 3 jars. I luckily had a can of Monster and that helped. I asked my wife when she got home from work and she said she gave them to her cousin. I asked her to reimburse me because they cost $50 a jar, and she said I make enough to replace them and just ignored me for the rest of the day. One day when she thought I was asleep, she was talking to someone on the phone, explaining how she's going to move her parents into our house. She had to explain this to me. We only have 3 rooms. One is her office, one is my office/game room, and the other is our bedroom. She told the person on the phone, who I assume is her sister, that she's going to give my gaming setup to her brother to make room and that I'll get over it eventually. So today I left work early to catch her in the middle of her plans. And when I walked in our apartment, her and her brother were then placing everything into a box. I asked what was going on, and my wife, whose face was pale, said she was cleaning when her brother came by. I asked him did he plan on taking my computer. Of course he denied. So I went into the room to get the iPad we share. And I looked through the texts on there, and it clearly shows my wife telling him when to pick it up, and to deny that he had it. I told him to get out, and asked her why does she think she's so entitled to my stuff. I've never yelled at her, and I guess this scared her because she began to cry. She ended up packing a bag and went to stay with her sister. While she was out, I picked up a lock from my office. Her sister texted me calling me an a-hole. I'm beginning to think I could have handled this better. I'm looking for advice. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You're not leaving her over a computer. You're leaving her for repeatedly stealing and lying to you. Get the heck out. Stealing, lying, making major life decisions without you. Not being supportive of you when you decide to get more education. And then punishing you when you get a good job as a result. Not respecting you as a human being. Yeah, saying leaving her over a computer is a ridiculous way to put it. The computer is just the straw that broke the camel's back. The room thing would be my breaking point. Let him move in, cause I'm out of here. Hopefully you can afford a monthlies. Not the a-hole, but your soon-to-be ex is a spiteful bee. Put everything but the necessities in a paid storage unit and cut your losses with this horrible person. Not the a-hole. Sounds like she doesn't respect you. Maybe also a bit bitter, as it sounds she got really funny once she learned you were earning more than she thought. Agreed. She mocked him for taking courses to learn Japanese to better his job prospects. When it played out exactly as he knew it would, she got petty. He made her look like a moron without meaning or trying to, and she took the vindictive road about it. Now for the update. After about a week staying at her sister's house, Emma called me and asked if we could meet up. I agreed and we met at a park. She apologized for everything and said she thought she was doing what was best for everybody. I asked what if I just gave her expensive makeup to my sister. She admitted that she would be upset. I then asked why did she think it would be any different for me. She didn't have a reason, and her sister told her how unfair she was being to me. We decided to give it another chance and she moved back in. It was going good until she started moving her things into my office. I asked her what she was doing, and she explained how she needed a room for her parents. I told her no, and that's not happening. I grabbed her things and placed them back into her office. I told her that they could move in, but my space has to remain untouched. On top of that, we need to determine how bills are going to be paid if they stayed. She called me a selfish jerk and then ran back to her sister's. I guess her sister told her she was being inconsiderate once again, and apparently they got into an argument because the sister refuses to take their parents in and said she's tired of hearing about her problems. I agree with her. Her sister has 4 kids. Her sister called and told me everything and said that Emma went to her parents' house. I tried to call her, but she ignored my phone calls for 2 weeks. So I decided I couldn't live like this, filed for divorce, and handed to her at her parents' house. She called and begged me to forgive her. I told her I'm not sure if I can. She refused to sign it until we go to counseling, which I refused, and said she had 2 weeks to suggest that. So now I live alone. She still refuses to sign the papers, but that doesn't stop the divorce. It just makes it harder. You know, your wife has not learned anything, has not changed as she promised, and still feels entitled to your money and your things. She's disrespectful, uncommunicative, and frankly quite mean. Stand your ground. You're doing the right thing, not the a-hole. She had a problem supporting Opie while he was taking steps to advance his career, which fortunately he didn't need. However, has no problem with stealing from him once his hard work paid off. Good for Opie for getting away from her. I mean, if we were just dating then, I would consider it, because I have my own loans to pay off and bills to pay and other responsibilities. But if we were married, then I would probably create a plan to help as much as possible with his studies. However, if I didn't support him financially because we're just dating, then I wouldn't start being a witch once I find out he makes triple than I, or make major life-changing decisions. If anything, I would be happy and won't ask to change a thing, since it was his money and hard work that provided for him. So she didn't change at all and was trying to do what she wanted at your expense. Yeah, get that divorce done. She's a POS. She wanted to live with her parents, and now she can in their house. What doesn't get explicitly spelled out in these posts, but I think is a factor, is that she refused to fund his language lessons, resulting in them keeping their finances separate. Then she simultaneously found out that she was wrong. It wasn't silly, and that since he didn't tell her about the financial change, he must plan to continue keeping the finances separate. Basically, she didn't like reaping what she'd sown, and her solution to this was to secretly take things away from him. Now put that behavior into context them eventually becoming parents. This is a don't walk, run situation. Bullet bomb dodged by Opie. Minimizing her insane red flags, no accountability, and holding insane grudges over his reasonable responses. This woman's malfunctioning nightmare. Not the a-hole. Block her and her whole family. She's not mature enough to be married and has obvious issues with manipulation and communication. Leave her out of your life. You will be happier without her and eventually find someone who acts like an adult. Last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my fiance due to my mother? Original post. So this situation is just a mess all around. So me, 26 male, and my now ex-fiance, 27 female, had been dating for a little over 4 years when I asked her to marry, and she said yes. Now here's the problem. As we were planning about the new house we were going to buy, I talked to her about a room for my mother, 60s female, as she would live with us after we got married. I had discussed with her a lot of times when we were dating that my mom would live with us, because simply put, I am an only child, and my mom raised me as a single mother after she divorced my abusive father. She never had a new boyfriend, nor did she ever remarry. Her entire life was dedicated to raising me alone. And also, me and my mom are each other's only living relative. We have no family besides each other. My fiancé said that she did not want my mother living with us. And when I asked about why she didn't say anything when we were dating, she said that she thought I'd get over it, and we could put her in a home. And this, I absolutely refused. I was furious because my mom had always treated her as her own daughter and had never been one of those crazy mother-in-laws that are rude and evil. I gave out an ultimatum that if my mother couldn't live with us, we wouldn't get married. And yeah, we broke up. Now her side of the family and her friends are calling me an a-hole. But I don't think I did anything wrong, since I made it clear when we were dating that my mother would live with us. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Dementia patients need constant attention as the disease progresses. I wouldn't know what your fiancé was imagining, but good you thought that your mother is living alone now just fine. so I have her move in with the two of you. You would lose all privacy. Newly married couples need privacy. Then when the disease progresses, that she would be put in a home. Unless you're extremely wealthy and can hire help caring for a dementia patient, is far too much for two people. If there is no way to salvage this relationship with her, then may I say have your mother move in with you now, before you start another relationship. That way, any woman will know exactly what her future will look like with you. Also, you will get a chance to understand what you're thinking of taking on. I still remember the night when I was a teen that my family had an elderly woman pounding at our door in the middle of the night during a raging thunderstorm, screaming that her husband had fallen into the well and we needed to help him. Turned out her husband had died years ago. The poor woman had dementia, and like OP, the family refused to put her in a home where she could get the care and supervision she needed. That poor woman wandered for hours in a massive thunderstorm in her nightgown before coming to our house, desperately trying to find someone to help her husband. OP would be far better off researching the best medical facilities where his mother can get the care she needs than to insist his new bride be forced to share her new home with a dementia patient. Not all care homes are awful, and there are some amazing ones out there that actually recreate a small village for dementia patients, with shops, hair salon, movie theater, everything that allow them to live as close to a normal life as possible while staying safe and cared for. Maybe you can find some sort of duplex where your mother is close but you both have your privacy. It's too late for this woman, and that's fine under the circumstances. But very few women in their 20s and 30s would be happy living with a woman in her 60s who could go on for decades. Edit: I should have mentioned this, but our family has a history of dementia settling in around early 60s, and my mother has started to show signs of forgetfulness. That's why I want to keep her as close as possible. I will be the primary caregiver. She has plenty of savings to cover the cost of her treatment and 2 apartments in her name, one she currently lives in and one we have put up for rent. After moving her in with me, I will sell one of them and will hire a full-time nurse after her dementia starts getting worse. We were never planning on having children, nor did I ever expect her to quit her job or stay at home to take care of my mother. I understand that it'll be tough, and it should be majorly my responsibility, but she raised me through tough times all on her own, and I will not turn my back on her now that it's my time to help her. My mother has only recently started showing signs of dementia. Up until a few years ago, she was doing just fine, but now her health is slowly starting to deteriorate. We are independently wealthy due to my mother founding and then selling her own company. Money will not be an issue and I can easily hire help. Edit 2. You all are correct, but my mother living with us is never the only option I suggested. I understand that what I had was a big ask, so I was ready to buy a 2-story home or something like that. But she just wanted to put her in a home and be done with it. Now for the update. So I talked with my mother about the wedding being cancelled and why it was happening. And well, got a very tight slap across my face. My mother was disappointed with the idea of my ultimatum, and she felt that I was reducing her down to a burden when she wasn't one just yet. It was already stated she'd come live with me and I got married. This was not the way my mother expected me to handle the situation. In her words, I'd just be throwing her hard-earned money in a pit because of my own selfishness, and that she did not raise me to be inconsiderate of my significant other. She explained things to me and showed me my fiance's perspective in a much clearer light. She said she did want and expect to live with us, but not for forever, and not that soon after I got married. She also said that she would rather go into a specialized care home where the professionals could handle her should her illness get worse and changes who she is. I contacted my fiancé and we talked, and it was all pretty emotional, but it was all for the better. I apologized for my ultimatum and not seeing her perspective better, and she apologized for what she said and that she was wrong for saying that we could put her in a home. She knew how much my mother meant to me, so she admitted that her insinuating we could just drop her in a home was wrong. I was stupid and naive and could not see beyond my own ideas for our future, which is the worst thing I could have done, especially considering my life is going more than just my own from now. We decided that it's best to buy a house and move my mother in with us at least for the time being, so we can still spend some time with her while she's somewhat healthy. And when the time comes when taking care of her is beyond us, we will put her in a specialized care unit for people with dementia close to our home so we can still visit her, as my mother wants. Though we are still looking into the exact details of this plan, we are both coming out of this better partners for each other, though this may take a bit of time. We've also decided to hold off on the wedding and first try to be better partners first, but we are still engaged. Also, we'll be going on a trip around the world soon, so we could live our life as a couple a bit before my mother moves in. I know there'll be challenges, and I know I'm not prepared to handle everything. But more than anything, if I won't be able to take care of my mother in her final moments, then I at least want to spend some time with her while she's still herself. My mother's diagnosis will be next week. I'm hoping that she's just being forgetful due to her age, but if it's that damned illness, then the possible amount of time with my mother is considerably shortened. Thank you all for your comments. I hope such a situation never comes to any of you. When taking care of her is beyond us. I really hope OP is actually capable of recognizing when it starts to become too much. I have a buddy that I work with that moved his elderly mother with dementia into his house. He thought he could keep an eye on her since he works from home. That lasted all of 2 weeks before he decided that he couldn't do it anymore and that she needed to go into a home with specialized care. It was heartbreaking to not only watch her go through something like that, but also his realization that he wasn't going to be able to look after his mom after all. She passed away a few months later. People don't understand how bad it can be, and that it's a 24 hours a day. We had family friends with a similar situation, and a person with dementia just kept turning on the stove burners when no one was looking. And they can't change their behavior because it's a symptom of something unfixable. My gran wanted to go to a specialized care unit when the time comes after caring for her mother for 6 years. Then she forgot she has Alzheimer's, and she is paranoid now. I'm heartbroken. She has another personality now trapped inside her. Funny how it started as the mother moving in purely because they're close. Then when things got a bit heated, it turned into she's showing signs of dementia. And then by the edit, she can't drive anymore and is thinking of specialized care homes in the update. Once you're at the can't drive phase, you're well and truly past showing signs. The sign is actually as big as the Hollywood sign, except this one lights up with flashing neon colors.